Well, Dan, thank you so much for joining us on the Claima Stories podcast presented by Vista. Excited to sit with you today, learn more about you, learn more about Kids of Immigrants, and all the dope stuff you got going on. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Now, I got to message you a little bit about something because when I first met you, you had dreads, you had locks.
Yeah.
Now the locks are gone.
Yeah.
What happened with the locks, man?
So, it's clipped. It was 15 years.
Yeah.
And it was part of my life, my identity. It was a big part of like what I felt tied back to where I come from. And when I say where I come from, not necessarily like my roots, but just like my upbringings and
Your experience,
my struggles, my challenges in life. It was inspired by like all the homies started locking up, and we were like, that was like our like signature for me and the homies.
Yeah.
And I was 18, so I was in a different space.
Yeah.
And at that time, I was like in trouble for like distribution of marijuana, which is crazy nowadays.
Now when you think about it today.
In New York it was illegal my whole time.
Yeah.
And I was facing like 3 years. And my mentality at that time was just a different me. I was like, yo, I go do this 3-year run.
I'll be back out.
I come home, my hair's long, the short period.
Yep.
I'll be locked up. So nothing to prove. And it was a lot more tied to it. I feel like it was very much just rooted from that. And I felt like my whole time, as I evolved as a person, I felt like I can never forget where I come from and who that person was. And I feel like a lot of what I do is be that hero to that kid that was lost.
Yeah.
And I felt like that for those reasons, I could never let go of it. And then the end of last year, I hurt like my neck, shoulder, like working out. And the doctor, the doctor was like, your hair's really heavy. And they're like, you have to figure out how you want to like tie it maybe on top of your head so it's not pulling all the time. And then I think it started coming across my mind of like letting it go. And I felt like I was in Barcelona in the summer, and I knew that I took a trip to Europe for 2 weeks, and I knew in those 2 weeks I wanted to take it to like for myself.
Yeah, you've been going, and you're like, I just kind of want to pause and just
figure something out.
Yeah.
And one day I woke up, I was like, I think today's the day. I prayed for like an hour.
Yeah.
And I was like emotionally and spiritually just detached from it, and I just chopped it.
Wow.
Yeah.
How do you feel since, right? Because that's, that was so much, right?
Yeah.
And now it's, it's kind of like that new era for you.
Yeah.
Pun intended. How does that feel?
It was the best decision I've made probably this year. One of the best, just because it was an immediate, like just weight off my shoulder. And I feel like I came to it in a peaceful way, still representing that kid that, was lost, but was able to be like, I'm more than just my hair. And also just like, I think like I sometimes when you come up in pain and struggle, like that's your identity. And as much as like pain is not good, it's uncomfortable, and it's something you don't really want to experience, when that's all you're scared to even get out of that struggle.
Right, yeah, because it become normal.
Yeah, it's like
very normal.
It's like, oh, I don't want life to be too good because I'm wired to go through pain, to go through struggle. So it's like, it sounds a little silly, but it's like I was scared to like be like, nah, I don't. My life doesn't have to have all these challenges and all this pain tied to it.
Yeah.
So I felt like letting it go was like, it's kind of, it's just like, why were you holding on to that for so long? But I think I just didn't know how to identify myself. Like, there was so much identity in that. It's like, who would I be if it wasn't for that? Like, so now I feel free.
Now you feel free. I think that's super important. Growth, we all have to grow one way or another, whether it's on our own or whether it's through force, because life happens. Thinking about growing up, like you grew up in the 80s in New York, Honduran parents. What's the difference between that kid then and you now?
I was born in '88, so grew up in the '90s. You just put like 10 years on me right now. Trying to stay young.
He said no.
I mean, I definitely grew up in that era. I don't even know what generation I am, whatever.
Don't label yourself.
I feel like I grew up in Brooklyn, then also lived in Jersey when my parents separated, but just grew up as a kid that really didn't have any aspirations. I think I never thought about college. Never thought about anything outside of like, to be honest, my role models were the dope dealers.
Because that's who you
like,
saw,
they was
right?
on the block.
That's who you saw.
They had the jewelry, the cars, the Escalades on 24s. They had
with the low pro tie.
They had all that. That was like, that's what I want to be.
Yeah.
And then I had relationships with them, so like they were my homies and they took care of me.
Did it feel like, obviously the environment may have been not safe, but you obviously felt safe?
Yeah, I mean, it was normal. I think, we have social media now, but like, I feel like, it's great that a lot of these things are being magnified nowadays of what really goes on in the hood, but it's like, this has always been going on. This is not new.
It's not new news.
Yeah.
New to some people.
Yeah. Now, maybe like more people know or there's more awareness on it, but this is normal to me.
How did you feel like you were a product of that environment at a young age? Like what, outside of, obviously we talked through kind of the marijuana situation, but were there other ways where you felt like this is just me responding to the situation I'm in?
Yeah, I mean, that's all I knew. So it's like, I think, you think of like how hard we go for our block, our set, again, whatever that is, whatever that, community is, it's like when that's all you got, you're willing to put everything on the line for it. So, when you don't have those aspirations, it feels like, yeah, I'm willing to do anything for the homies because this is all I got anyway.
How young were you when that mentality started to take shape?
I think it was always there. Like I was always, it's transformed into a whole community and a brand, but I was always about the people around me since I was a kid, and I was the one having all my boys back.
Yeah.
They had my back. And then, I think as young as like 12, 13, like my first time being arrested by like, just like, and it was just so normal. It was just like, it's almost like you get out and you like got this, your chest.
Yeah, you're like, oh yeah, I got that.
I got my stripes, but it was like, it was just truly like just being a product of your environment. And I think I always say like, we don't do better because we don't know better. Yeah. So it's like when you don't know, and also when you're not inspired, because someone could be dropping the best life advices, but if I can't connect,
I don't know them, they're not in my community.
Yeah, it's like,
how is it real?
Yeah, it's like, that's cool for you. But yeah, so that was like, and then like just middle school, high school, like it was me and the homies. Yeah. That's all that mattered to me. And like I was looking back now, I was always a leader in my own way. As far as like what I used to say, and I still feel this way, but not as, I guess not as like, I don't know if dramatic is the right way, but it would be I'll live and die for the truth. So that was my thing. It was just like I wasn't a troublemaker. Like I wasn't like necessarily like a bully, but if you go against mine, then that was my reaction.
Yeah, you gonna be here. You're not running away from it.
Yeah.
I would say one of the probably the turning points, at least what I started to see in your story, was you were 18 and your sister passed away. Yeah. What do you remember about the impact that had on you?
Yeah, I feel like that was ironically the best thing that happened to me. One, I'm in a spiritual space where she's here with me. Like I feel it. Yeah. But I think at that point in my life, I had to really look at myself in the mirror and be like, what are you gonna do with life? What are you about to do about this? My sister wasn't a bad person. She died in jail. And she was arrested by being in a car that was stolen that she didn't steal. But anyhow, long story short, is like this person that's my sister, that I grew up with my whole life, wasn't a bad person. There was so much speculation about what happened. And me and my friends were upset. Well, for the most part, like, everybody was upset at her boyfriend. And when I mean upset, it was like he got to go. Something got to happen to him.
For him. Yeah.
And I think that was like, it was like a dark place in my life where I was like I said, I've never been like, it's not like I was trying to fight people.
You weren't trying to be like a menace.
Yeah, but it's like, my sister's not coming back. She went to jail because of him. And it's like, I just remembered just waking up feeling dark and like, I gotta go put my hands and feet on this guy. Yeah. And it's an ugly way to live. And I know I think I ended up getting locked up for something dumb, like it was trespassing. I was in the projects across the street from my house, and the cops just ran down and they just wanted, that's what I'm saying, all the stuff that goes on with harassment. I wish I knew like my rights in a way, or just knew how to speak up.
Right.
Cause like they arrested me cause I was trespassing. My mom's house literally is here and the projects is here. But basically they were like, if you don't live in the projects, we're arresting you for trespassing. Wow. I went to jail and I was 18. It was still that year after my sister. And I just remember, like I didn't get processed and I got bailed out immediately by my homie Juan, shout out to him. And I just remember being like, this is my last time ever going to jail.
You're doing this.
Like I was like, I'm never coming back.
Wow. And
I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know that was truly gonna happen.
Yeah, but that was your intent.
Yeah, it was like, I think that's, those like moments in my life of like speaking with my words having that much power, was the beginning of that, like understanding everything that I consume and everything that I say will come back around. Yeah,
yeah. So you're in a mentally transformative place when that happens and you're going through this. And eventually this idea around social work starts to percolate. Yeah. What's your initial connection back to social work?
My youth pastor was like, yo, I want you to be a camp counselor. He was like, we'll pay you $150 a week or $75 a week, something like that. It was like, volunteer work with a little checking on it. Yeah. $75 when you're broke is amazing. Yeah. Anything. So yeah. And I was like, Mo, you know who I am, right? Like you know me. I'm kind of a wild boy, Like I'm not like, I don't think I'm like a mentor or a counselor. Yeah. And he was like, man, you got it. And I don't know if he encouraged me because he just needed staff or he truly believed in me. I think he truly believed in me.
Mm-hmm.
And within 2 weeks, I got promoted to like a head counselor because I was able to just connect with these kids. A lot of the kids were from foster homes. And they were like, I saw them, I saw myself.
Yeah.
So I was able to really like, they were giving me the badass kids. Like, oh, like he's a trouble kid. Send him to Daniel's team. And like these, I know how to talk like them, I walk like them. I know where, I can understand the anger and just being a kid and you want to be a rebel.
Yeah.
And I remember towards the end of it, or like the last week of camp, like the kids like crying, like, man, like this was the best summer with you.
Wow.
And I told Mo, like, yo, this was like, thank you for this. And he was a social worker, and I was like, yo, I think I want to do this. And I think it made me feel purpose. I think between losing my sister and being like, this ain't right.
Yeah.
This, my sister is not alive, and she wasn't a bad person. That was kind of like in my heart, because I knew beyond like the crime involved of her going to jail, it's like, yo, this is like the sweetest person in the world. She didn't deserve this. And I felt like maybe this could be a way that I can like play my part to this world, and really not like my sister's name can't go down in vain. Like, it can't just be that's it.
Yeah.
She's dead, and move on.
Yeah. So how did you pursue that? Did you go to school for that?
I went to school. I went to LIU at first, Long Island University, Brooklyn campus. My pops was sick of my shit, and he was like, you gotta get out the crib. And then my boy was going to Norfolk State and VA.
Yeah.
And he's like, bro, I got a suite. You could kind of sneak in here and live with me and apply to school. And I was like, sounds like a win. One, I'm about to be homeless. And two, I could get continue my education. So I moved down to VA.
Were you hesitant about leaving New York?
At that time, it was just that domino effect of losing my sister. And it was just like, I was so lost as a person, like anything.
You just needed.
It's just whatever. Like at that point, life felt like worthless a little bit. Wow. It was just like, I don't, I think I started like, that was like the beginning of my drinking addiction. Like, just kind of looking for that escape. I didn't.
That's how you were coping with.
Yeah, I was
all the stuff you were dealing with.
It was never like a crazy, like I'm waking up and getting drunk, but it was my way out of reality, especially towards the end of the day. Like, I'm gonna have a few drinks.
Yeah, man, a lot of folks go through it though, right? Like, you don't have the tools that maybe you have now, then, and also you're younger, and so you may not be as ready to listen to people and the advice that they might offer. So you go to Norfolk, you do that for a bit, and then do you get into actual social work for a little while?
So my last year, senior year, I had to intern for a year. I interned for Virginia Beach Social Services, and that was like amazing, an amazing year to get an understanding of like, first, it was what happened at camp when I was a counselor, and now like, having like these cases where, these kids would literally be like, I'll drop them off to like their daycare or whatever, and they'll be like, yeah, that's my dad. And I'll be like, what? Like, they just like.
They latched on.
Yeah, they didn't really, I think, when you, at that age, I didn't know what that like thing that I have, that light that I have, I didn't know exactly how to like specify it or talk about it. I just knew I had something that connects to people and connected to the youth and to those kids. And but what I knew was that I couldn't 9 to 5 it. Like,
really? What was it about it? Is just too much of the same, or you had other interests?
I was working at Nordstrom's as a salesman, shoe sales, and I was making more money than my supervisor because I used to kill him with sales. Making more money than my supervisor at the social work place I was interning at. And I was like, bro, like, it wasn't necessarily about the money, but that was one thing. Like, I'm about to graduate and get paid less than my current job.
Yeah.
And then 2 was just like, I'm a rebel at heart. I'm sure I got some versions of ADHD, and I'm like, I can't sit in a desk. I can't just be like in front of a computer. Yeah, like, but I always tip my hat to social workers because I feel like I learned the importance of it, and I learned the impact of it, and I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna continue this, but this is something that I'm doing for the rest of my life. I just don't know how.
Some way, a part of it is going to be with you in your work as you move forward. Now, as you move forward, you do end up you moved across the country. You end up going to the Bay, I think, right? That's around like 2013 or something like that.
Yep.
So how we go from social work and here and then Nordstrom's to the Bay? Like, that just seems like a very random thing.
I think moving to VA, I got my own apartment there. I was like, oh, I could be a grown up. It definitely was like, yo, I got my own, I think that made me fearless about moving more because the VA step was a big step. Was like, oh, I don't, and it's the South, and for me, I learned that Southern hospitality, which was beautiful. And then my best friend growing up, since I was 12, David Ali, he went to school in the Bay, and he was there, and he was like, yo, come visit me. I went one time, and I was like, yo, I'm going to move here with you. And at the time, he was a party promoter. Yeah. And Davis had one job in his whole life. He worked for Lucky Brand when he was like 18, never had a job ever again. He's been on his own entrepreneur, kind of figuring this shit out since he was like 18, 19. And he wasn't really successful. He was just getting by, but it definitely intrigued me. I was like, bro, I was inspired by it. This is somebody I knew my whole life. And to see him being like, bro, I just wake up every day and work for myself and figure out how I'm going to pay my rent.
I'm going to get it, yeah.
And I just was like, yo, I'm coming. Yeah. Nordstrom's moved me. We lived there for 10 months. And then 10 months later, I was like, bro, we originally wanted to move to LA. I was like, I think it's time for LA. And he was like, yeah, let's do it.
Was it just it wasn't fast enough?
I think I got comfortable really quick. And I felt like something in my heart was saying, like, this ain't it. And I remember being like, yo, let's move. I was on his couch in the living room. He had a roommate. I told the roommate, like, yo, me and David's going to move out by next month. A week later, the roommate's like, yo, somebody's going to check out the spot. Can I clean it up? And David was like, wait, I'm not ready. Like, we moving too fast. I was like, nah, bro, we out. And we left March 1st, 2014, moved to LA.
You moved to LA.
Yeah.
So when you get there, what ultimately do you decide to get into, right? Because you were more so moving to, like, kind of go find what you was going to get into. So what would that become?
I moved March 1st. Nordstrom was supposed to transfer me. The transfer didn't go through. At the time, I told David I had him. Like, I'll pay the rent. I'll figure it out. Like, he would eventually figure it out, but at least I had something that was consistent with a job. So I was like, I got you. When the first day I got there, they're like, the transfer didn't go through, but you could reapply. I remember just like crying in the shower for like an hour because I felt like, why did I do this? I'm the one who like pushed the move. Yeah. And he's sort of relying on me, and I just felt that responsibility. We moved into an apartment that there was supposed to be a vacant room. When we literally get there, the room's not vacant. And we were like, oh, bro. I'm like, I called my man's like, yo, who's this guy? And they're like, oh, he's gonna move out like in a month. I'm like, what? So it was a lot of mixed emotions.
Yeah, obviously.
I got my, what is it? The whatever, not the retirement thing.
401k?
401k. I was like, yo, I need all of it. They're like, well, you're going to get this penalty. I'm like, yo, I just need it. I need whatever it was there.
So you just emptied it.
I emptied it out. I went into an opening ceremony. I asked for a job. They had me. And then that was like sort of the start of LA. And David, I was coming back from an interview from opening ceremony. He come up to me with some quarters in his hands. This is like a story that, I always say is like, literally had quarters in his hand. He was like, yo, catch this bus with me to Reseda. I want you to meet this girl, Kehlani, I want to work with. I was like, bro. By that time, we moved to Hoover and Pico. I done got banged on a few times. I'm like,
I'm not trying
LA, like I'm just learning.
Yeah, you learning the situations in the pocket.
Bus, nah, it's 7 p.m.
Yeah, he said it's
like, bro, like I got banged on for wearing like Nikes with a red check. Like, we gotta take our time here. And then he gave me the best friend guilt of like, yo, you gonna let me go by myself? And I said, F it, let's go. And I met Kehlani that day, and they took off and they brought me along with them. And
what capacity did you join that team?
Started as a stylist, and then I think that just, not even say evolved. I was just like, it was just me and him. We were the only two guys. I think it was like 8 of us on tour, her dancers, her photographers, and it was like, yo, first day, yo, can you drive from here to Phoenix? And I'm like, okay.
I guess.
And then we get to the show. It's like, yo, can you help put the stage together? And I'm like, sure. And then all this, I'm styling the two dancers and Kehlani. It was 30 shows. They gave me a $1,200 budget for them 3.
For 30 shows?
For 30 shows for the whole thing. And it was, it was all they had. This is my best friend, and this is like my new, like, Kehlani's fam.
Yeah.
Like, we really, they brought me along in this, like, more than anything was like this priceless inspiration that I gained from it. I saw the LA dollar in a dream. Like, I didn't see like nothing that was necessarily given to them. Yeah. It was like they were broke. Like, Kehlani would give David $20 to go get a haircut because they had an important meeting, and I'm like, David, I don't got it. And he's like, Kehlani literally, like, us sharing meals, and seeing them do it was like, I think we ended up going on a few tours, and she got bigger and bigger and bigger, and I think the last tour I was in, I was like, yo, I got to do something for me. I was like, it's just possible. And like, I think I was just like inspired, and I think traveling the country and the world,
and seeing and meeting so many different people had to have an impression on you.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm dying to ask then, where does Kids of Immigrants come into play? Right. Like, what's the origin of? It's bigger than just a brand. Like, this truly feels like a community, a movement, etc. Multi-hyphenate. When's that idea start to seep in?
I met, my co-founder, Wehleh Dennis, in the Bay. And he was designing leather goods at that time. First day we met, literally soulmates. You know what I mean? Best friends.
What do you mean? What was about it? What was it between you two?
We met. He came over. It was like 9-10 p.m. I'm like, bro, just sleep over, bro. Like, fuck it, don't go home. Because we was just chopping.
Yeah.
And the next day, I walk him to work. It was like literally soulmate. There's no romance, but it was bromance for sure. And it's like there was something there that, we couldn't explain it. And he was trying to do like a leathers brand. Within the first day, this is how I knew he felt what I felt. He was like, I'll change the name of my brand today if you want to be a part of it. I'm like, bro, you've been working on this for like a year, but we just connected immediately. Yeah. And then I helped him with his brand. I didn't want him to change the name of his brand. I think it was called like Wehleh, California at the time. And he brought up Kids of Immigrants. This was 2013. And I think at that time, I was working at opening ceremony in Nordstrom. I felt like we looked at fashion through like the lens of high fashion. So like Louis and Celine, like we were big Phoebe Philo fans. We were like, man, Phoebe's the best.
Yep.
And that's what we aspired when we thought about fashion. And I think we worked for a long time and realized that we didn't have the tools and resources to take it to that level, and then be like, wait, well, that's not even really us anyway. Like, we're not that.
What about it didn't feel like y'all?
I think overall it's just the connection of it and what it represented.
Yeah.
I think we loved Celine at that time because how Phoebe was just doing her thing.
Yeah,
Like, she was just a rebel home. Like,
at that time.
she was like, I'm gonna have a baby, so no collection coming up. And we were like, yeah, we love that.
Love that.
We love that
really
type of.
Take your time for yourself. That's real.
But there was no connection with it. I mean, I wear, stuff here and there, but I still find trouble connecting with it. And I think it never truly represented me. And Wehleh and I, we figured this like. Wore polo my whole life, wore Nautica my whole life, and never been on a boat, never been on a yacht. This American heritage brands or these Italian heritage brands never represented who we are.
Yeah.
And Kids of Immigrants in 2013 sounded like a cool name, but then moving to LA, Pico Union area specifically, next to K-Town is like Koreans on one side and a huge Latino community on the other side. And we're like, bro, these are all immigrants. And these people felt like fam because I'm like, I could see this person. I could see my uncle in this person or my mom's in that person. And it was just like one day we were like, yo, let's revisit Kids of Immigrants because 3 years later, it feels even stronger
Feels
of
right.
a name. It's like, this is who we are. And that was just a big part of the bond between me and him.
I think that's amazing. Like, I love that part of the story that you go back to this area near K-Town and you start to see it and you've been sitting on this name. Well, not necessarily sitting on the name for 3 years, but it comes back and like the significance is even stronger. You're like, this sounds like the right move for us. This sounds where we should go. As you think about the process of starting to work on that first collection, tell me more about what that process was like and like, how were you, like, what was the opportunity that you both started to see in the marketplace?
Yeah, I think at that time it was like, one, I felt like we were going to represent something that was true to us and that was part of the bond of, even though his parents from Liberia, my parents from Honduras, and how we had so many similarities in the way of our upbringing, because you'll think of someone, a kid of an immigrant from Africa compared to Central America, you're like, oh, like these are two completely different people, and we do have our differences, but it was like the connection of the pressure of being first generation and that mentality of, that my pops and Wehleh's pops, like, we're like, bro, they're like the same person. Hopefully one day they'll meet, but just that pressure and sort of that stern, that like stoic, like male figures in our lives of like, man, what I've done for you to be here, I came from this land to a country that I didn't know how to speak the language. I didn't know like my father came to Brooklyn in the 80s with nothing and figured it out. So like as an inspiration, that's always been an inspiration, but a lot of his was like work hard, and I think what we realized was we don't have the capital, we don't have anything to start this brand, but we were so inspired by the neighborhood that we were like, there's no excuse to not do it. I don't know exactly how we're gonna do it, but there's no excuse. Like, I think, I always reference and like our heroes were the street vendors, because we were like, bro, we're over here crying about not having money or the tools and resources, bro. Like, this person is selling used shoes in front of us. And I always reference the orange juice man. Like he got the supermarket cart with 200 oranges and he's flipping orange juice. And I'm like, bro, that's an entrepreneur. He know his supply chain. He know his demand. He know his real estate. He know what time he got to be here to really
make the money he need to make to get by to tomorrow.
And I'm like, bro, like, there's no excuse. And we were like, I think, again, making that decision of like, yo, we're gonna do this, regardless of like what we feel like we can't do or don't have the capacity to make happen. Right. We're gonna do it.
How'd y'all get creative about like the maybe the supply you use?
Wehleh is the most creative person I know. So once I was able to really encourage it to him, like we are each other's soundboard, and he started making it. And I was like, we started putting immigrants and love on clothing, all thrift clothing. Yeah.
So y'all would go thrift, find some
and then
stuff that works, and print on
it.
Like, that's dope.
If it was this jacket, well, it'd probably cut the sleeves and make it a vest, and then just draw something. And we created maybe like a 20-piece one-of-one collection. And then we shot it, and then did the first shirt that was done in sort of production, and we only made 24 of them, was a love shirt. We put KOI in the front and love in the back. Yeah. And we released it, and we told the story. And we ended up, out of those 24, I think we sold 18, and it sold out first day.
How did you sell them? Like, were you like, did you do street? You went online.
Yeah, but we actually shot it at street vendors because that was the whole inspiration at the time. And it sold out 18 shirts. We went crazy. We sold them at like $25, so I don't know how much money is that. It's a few $100s, and we were like, we're rich.
But it was the fact that you saw the return on the energy that you put in, right? Like, you actually found gratification. It was gratifying.
It was an affirmation for us. It was an affirmative, like, yo, okay, we're crazy. This could work. This could work. Yeah.
Did it matter at all, like, at that time? Did it have to be profitable?
No, I didn't even know what profitable meant. I thought I knew, money didn't matter at that time. I still tried my best not to be so, Wehleh says it best. He says, you're not a businessman, you're a man that does business. And I keep that with me at heart because, it's like what they say, money just kind of dilutes. It makes it boring. It makes it not fun anymore. It's about numbers and analytics. You kill the spirit.
Kill the whole creative spirit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gets bogged down in processing data.
You gotta have a balance, right?
You gotta have the balance.
Yeah.
Now, thinking about your brand and also thinking about the time in our country in 2016 and in the world in general, LA is well known as a place where migrants settle and form communities. And in that time, there's a lot of conversation about building a wall. There's a lot of conversation around this Muslim ban. What was Kids of Immigrants' role, you felt, during that time? Like, how did y'all need to show up? Did you feel responsibility in showing up for your community? How did you feel about it?
When those things were happening, Trump got into office, and there was definitely a big political take on the brand. I think me and Wehleh, we've never been into the politics of things, and I can rant about that. I grew up the way I grew up, and this is just from experience. I don't want to say it's the truth, but my truth in my experience, and I think I've looked at things differently, but at that time I was like, politics, I don't care. For me, it was like, if you're a Democrat or a Republican, it's the Lakers versus the Celtics, it's still the NBA, it's still the same, platform. So at that time, we wasn't really into it. I think what I realized that was the beginning of, and which I now am very like happy to be a part of, is how much it empowered those people in those worlds. Like, if you are taking a stance against anything that's going on, and then this shirt or this brand and this movement is empowering you, I love that. You know, I think we all have different ways to, like, what I say, you know, like, make this world a better place in our own unique way. I'm not necessarily driven in that politic world. I think the way I came up was like, I don't care who was the president. Like, that never helped me.
It never really impacted
that
my
never, like,
my
I don't care who the president was. And I think for me, it was about what am I gonna do to help me, and what are we gonna do as people to help us. Like, I think the term "support your friends," which is one of our big slogans, was that. Like, I don't go about who's not supporting us. I care about who's supporting me and making something happen with them. So for me, the external kind of like politics of things wasn't, especially 6 years ago, I was much younger, and, you know, I was a little more like, I don't go. You know, I care a little bit more nowadays, but at that time, none of that fazed us. But what I realized was how many people were empowered by our brand to go protest, to go, you know, lead a campaign, or to go, you know, do all these things. I realized that our intention to empower was actually transcending in ways that I never knew could go.
Even imagine. Yeah.
And I think learning that was like, wow, like, this is more than just how I think Kids of Immigrants is. This is like someone who doesn't care about fashion being like, you know, I'm in this space to change the world the way I know, and wearing your shirt empowers that. And I was like, that's tight.
That's tight. I wanna read you this quote, and I wanna know what it means to you. The quote is, "This is not about policy. This is about humanity." What does that mean to you?
Did I say that?
Maybe.
I feel like that's something that I said.
The context was it was relative to border angels.
Oh yeah, I think, you know, I don't. At that time, it was like, I don't need policy to know what's right or wrong. You know, like I said earlier, you know, I live and die for the truth, and I felt that always, and I always felt that, you know, I think when you associate it to politics can go down, like, you know, just a road that, you know, there's not a discussion about what's right or wrong. It's like, this is the truth.
This is it, yeah.
And this is wrong. Like, this is not about what your views are. I don't care what color skin you are. If something's wrong, it's just wrong, you know? So I think for us was like, we wanted to like live by those, just our morals, you know? I think that was just it. It was like, at the time, you know, I say this, I feel like we had an opportunity to have $1 million Trump t-shirt. Like, we could have made money of it. Like, we were in the right position. 2016, people were like, yo, make a shirt about Trump. And we literally had some big people hitting us for it. And we're like, this can be an opportunity to like make a statement, but it wasn't true to us.
Yeah.
Because like,
it felt performative.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was just hopping on, like, okay, let's hop on this bandwagon, and, you know, it wasn't like that. I don't have those opinions or those sentiments, but it was just like, that's not why we made it.
That's not what you want the brand to be represented. Like, you don't want if somebody leaves, you know, one thing about Kids of Immigrants, you don't want it to be that shirt.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to be known as the Trump shirt.
Yeah.
Or when we went into inspiration as to like, why are we doing this, you know, represent us, represent our parents, our roots, all that. Like, Trump was never on the mood board.
Never on the mood board. Moving up a bit, fast forwarding a bit into 2021, right? Kids of Immigrants and Vans, and y'all have been working together for some time. But on this particular project, it was called "Anything Is Possible." Was the message? What's the significance of that partnership, or even that particular collaboration to you?
I mean, even being in that room with Vans, it was like anything is possible. It felt like, it was like anything is possible has been part of an internal conversation between Wehleh and I. And that was always like, yo, we're going to do it. We're gonna make the impossible possible.
Yeah.
And I feel like we always just want to tell honest stories. We want to just really just say what no one else could say because it's true to us.
Yeah.
And we were in a room with Vans, and this was our third shoe coming out with Vans, and it was just a point of like our 2021. Damn, that was last year. It was
right.
Just,
it feels like forever ago.
Pandemic. Yeah, it was the pandemic was still. I don't know what phase of the pandemic we're in now, but we're like, we had our biggest just growth that year during a pandemic, and it was like, wow, like this is truly our life. And I felt like, at core, we want to continue to inspire. And I think in my heart, oh yeah, I remember the conversation. It was like, this was going to be the biggest Vans release. It was going to be a bit bigger than the two other before. And I told Debbie, our creative director, like, I don't want to lose the human touch. Like, I don't want to...
With the volume that comes with it.
Yeah, we can never, like, not... If our community, if our people start feeling like we're becoming so big that it's no longer relatable or feasible, I think I always keep that... I think Mandela told Will Smith to always shake people's hand to let them know that you're real. I'm a real person. Yeah. You can do this too.
Yeah, that's like Dapper Dan. He still stands out in Harlem, same block. He's like, I'm here.
Yeah,
It's my neighborhood.
I've come across Dapper Dan a few times, and he'll look at you in the eye and
straight up.
And I remember just, because creatively we start thinking all this wild shit. Let's make it. Let's go over the hill and let's go to Honduras and. But I was like, for us, it was like the bigger we grow, the deeper we gotta dig in. And we wanted just to truly connect it to like the people who we represent, and never lose. I think at that point, we've been growing, so the brand has grown into people that maybe don't connect to it. Maybe they like it because it feels a little bit like trendy or whatever it is. It's like, all that is cool, but we never want to lose touch with why and those people that matter.
Speaking of like, digging deep and staying connected, that shoe, kind of described as like a Chinese laundry bag inspired insole with this yellow reminiscent of like household lamps, right? Yeah. What was the intention of the story behind that you wanted to get across?
I think sometimes, like, when we look at some of, like, the immigrant culture, it feels a little tacky at times. It's like, it's the plastic on the couch. And, the immigrant culture is sort of the struggle culture. I think I've identified us as, like, kids of immigrants and kids of the struggle because, I'll identify with somebody who's not a kid of an immigrant, but it's from the hood, and we have a lot of those similarities. So I think it was just the tackiness of grandma's living room. It was, like, just, like, the plastic. Like, I see it everywhere now, but I think that was, for us, has been for 6+ years now that we've made what I think growing up felt weird and what felt like tacky. Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, I was ashamed of my parents not talking English. I was ashamed that, parent-teachers conference, I got to translate everything. I got to read my mom's mail. I got to get on the phone and talk to the credit card man for my pops. Like, I was ashamed of all those things, the food we ate, the ass whoopings we got. It was very immigrant, for us. And I think when I started the brand with Wehleh, we were just owning in on getting our power back.
Yeah.
Everything Wehleh says something all the time. Is like, we want to inspire versus aspire. Like, meaning like we want to, for our community, we want to inspire them to be themselves, to look at their surroundings and say, I'm going to do something with this.
With this, yeah.
I think a lot of people, brands, sell aspiration. So you're trying to do what they're doing and get what they're getting. And, and you're never looking at yourself and being like, I'm inspired by this to be me. Yeah. And I think that was like doing the shoe in that tacky way. And we called it like, this is going to be like the Sunday best shoe. And like, Sunday, get fly, church fit.
Church fits.
And yeah, so we put all the elements on it was inspired by, our living rooms and, the rug and then the plastic on top of the rug and, that type of.
I love it. My grandma did that too. Yeah. Tell me, so 6 years, right? And you've had your ups, you've had your downs. We talked a lot about some of these great ups. I'm curious to know what surprises came along the way, like financial or, stuff that you're like, what the hell?
Yeah. I mean, I think throughout the whole time, it's been challenges. It's challenges today. I feel like maybe in the beginning was like not knowing how to run a business. I'm still learning a lot of that now. So when you say profitable, it's like, I thought we were profitable. I remember like being scared to pay my taxes the first 2 years because I was like, we made this amount of money. I'm looking at my Shopify. I'm like, but in actuality, that's all gross. Like, we made nothing. We're in the negative. But I'm thinking like I gotta pay that money.
Yeah.
It's like if you make money, you're gonna owe taxes. If you didn't make money, you're probably not gonna owe any tax. But I didn't know any better. I just saw a number.
And I assume like I got it. Just because you know what you hear,
Yeah, and I don't know. And I think we literally had to dissolve the first LLC, which was like year 2 or year 3. And restart the company internally. No one knows about this.
Yeah.
Everybody just sees the Instagram.
Yeah, you see, with everything on social, like, they always see us up.
And I remember just like, it was tough. Like, it was tough for me. It was tough for the team. It's like, to everyone's defense, is like, bro, we're not making any money. Like, how do we continue this? We see the impact, and I think we learned, like, we're cultivating this community, but community will not always equal numbers and profits. Yeah. And it's this priceless thing that you're doing out of your heart. Mm-hmm. And then when it doesn't equate to money, it's not supposed to.
Yeah, and those things don't. It's not always something that
it's
connects.
Oil and water,
right? These are two separate things. Yes, they can overlap, but it's not a given.
Right, it's not. So it was hard because we knew how much we were investing in that part of, like, that was just our passion. We knew we wanted to continue. I remember, like, we donated like 5 G's to inner city arts in year 1 to this art program in LA. My boy David Ali was like, bro, you don't even got 5 G's in your bank account. You're donating it? You got to help yourself first before you help anyone else. I just said it in his voice, but and I was like, I didn't know any better. It's not that I didn't know any better. It was just like, bro, I'm just doing out of my heart.
You're just doing what I feel is right. Like, you're not, I don't know any other way to do this.
Yeah, it's like, this is why I'm doing it. It's not necessarily for the business. I do have a vision, and I do want a family one day and have, nice things, but so, kind of having to dissolve the first company and restart the company, and being like, here we go again, let's try this again. And then I felt like it started working. It never really stopped working. It was just money.
It was just
money wasn't working.
You're just talking about operational capital.
That
It was still strong.
Yeah, it was still like people were like, "Man, love what you're doing." I'm like, "Yeah." And then we just started over again, and I think we started trying to figure out how to make it a thing more. I think learned a lot. I think then, it didn't really pick up. I don't want to say it picked up after that, because it had its moments. It was definitely growing, and then I think when the pandemic started, and then this George Floyd moment and the Black Lives Matter movement just went. That was like a weird. It's crazy because it's like this was like my ego at the time. I felt like going in my lane, and when I say that, it's like brands and people and artists, like everybody, like, yo, buy this.
We're
and
about
it's charity.
This, yeah.
And I was like, oh, because we're about this life. We're about the people. But the truth is that was an amazing thing that people started shifting. Some for performance, and I'm not here to judge why you did it, but at least there was some, hopefully, people benefiting off of this, whether it was performance act or whether it was a genuine act.
Yeah.
And I think my ego was more like, wait, we've been doing this for 4 years, and I think we took a break, the team, and then when we came back, we're like, yo, we see all these brands like literally narrative shifted. Everyone's like,
oh yeah,
we're donated to the workers over here, to this organization over there. And when we came back out, after taking like a 2-3 months break, like biggest collection ever. And I felt like our community and our people were like, this is cool, but these are the people
they've been really doing this
who's
work.
been doing it for years. And we just never, not that I hate it, but it's just like, I don't ever like to say I'm doing charity work. I'm not ever doing anything. It's not donation based. We're not a nonprofit. To be honest, knowing the laws of life, what I give, I receive 10 times more. So it's like, I don't ever feel like, oh yeah, I'm this person who's doing good. And it's like, bro, I got some morals and some principles. This is just straight. I say this, it's like, I saw a lot of people doing all this work. And I'm like, bro, I met you before. You're not a kind person. You're not a nice person. So that made me feel like for us, it was never about that. It was never about trying to perform. It was like, this is who we are as people.
This is what we wanted to do to help our own.
Yeah.
And represent ourselves. We're not out here trying to get on and do this for the news, do this for, celebrity clout, none of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, there definitely was a lot of that during that time.
It was good. I think looking back, and I was quickly I was like, man, at least hopefully someone's benefiting off of this. There's a community organization benefiting off of this shift. And I think for us, we were encouraged to keep doing what we're doing. Actually, let's put the pedal to the metal now. Let's really go hard. Because I think I felt that even though people were crossing to this lane of social impact with brand marketing, we felt 3 years ahead of the game at that time.
You had already had all the equity.
We're y'all doing how we started, so we learned so much.
Yeah.
By now, this year 4, we're going to year 4. I got 4 years of experience of how this works and not work. Yeah.
As you think about the evolution of the brand and the company, and even yourself, how do you feel like you've grown throughout all of this?
Man, I think that's the number one thing. I've grown so much that if there was no KOI tomorrow, I'll be so grateful that I was able to trust myself, gain trust in myself, gain trust in my thoughts and my beliefs. And I think in the past year, going to therapy, also, the sad thing about going to therapy for me was that I only went because my girl told me that you'll be a better leader at work if you go to therapy. I didn't do it for my personal
You
shit.
first. You did it.
They're
For you
like,
second.
oh, I'll be a better like leader at work. Cool. Like prior to therapy, KOI was the number 1, 2, and 3 priority. Then maybe me and my family and friends after. So when I went, yes, it made me a better leader at work, but it made me realize so much about myself, which then goes into work, personal relationships, and so on. But me wanting to be the best person I can be in my position for Kids of Immigrants is really what, motivated a lot of the growth for me. And like that, you got to keep growing. I think, this year, this is kind of personal. I don't really talk about this, but like was my first year being like, I've been saying this for a while, but like like the drinking, you gotta stop.
Like completely stop.
No, I think I'm a fun person. I'm gonna have fun for the rest of my life. I don't think I want to necessarily like quit like cold turkey, but the reliance, the dependence on it.
And sometimes like the brainlessness of it, like you don't even know maybe that you're even doing it really.
And that's how it's been for me. Because, again, it's never been like I'm going to wake up and just, start pounding beers. But, like, it's always definitely been a crutch for me. And then, like, going to therapy and understanding my mind. I think therapy was great in understanding that it's not just the body craving of it. It's the mind's wired already that way. So, like, understanding my mind and, like, I literally did this to be a better person at work. And then going to therapy, starting to realize, like, wait, let's do this to be a better person for you, which will then go into everything else. But I think that's, like, I tell my team all the time, it's just, like, that was just me in survival mode, and I'm still in it, like, a little bit. Like, that was just me, like, I just gotta hustle. I gotta make it work every day, like, and being scared of, like, if I don't wake up today and go to the sick, whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm trapping today. I'm working today, and like, it's almost sounds like prioritizing myself was like, bro, you don't got time for that shit. Like, go get this work done, and then like having that faith now to put myself first and still being in that transition of it and seeing how things are getting better by just me putting me first. It sounds simple, but when you're in it so much, and when failure is so scary, and like, it's like, I don't even matter. I gotta make this work. It don't matter if you feel sad today, if you feel mad, it don't matter. Go work. Like, nothing else matters. And I think I'm finally getting to those stages where I'm like, bro, like, take care of yourself. Watch everything else fall into place. And it sounds good, but to actually do it is practice.
Practice. Man, I appreciate you being so vulnerable about that, because that's like, a lot of us, struggle with that, like that, being able to step away and not have this thing in the back of your mind that everything's gonna fall apart. But in reality, it's like, well, if you're not together, then how are we going to even be able to keep doing all this stuff? How are you going to be able to show up for your team? How are you going to show up for your family, show up for your business, When you think about the young ones coming behind you, whether it's some that you know from back home or some that you don't even know that's just looking at you and are inspired, what advice would you offer them on their entrepreneurial path?
And I admire the youth so much. I think you're probably around my age, and I didn't grow up saying I don't think we grew up saying I want a business, like, I want to start my own shit. No. I go to high schools. I still, like, Saturday I got a career day at this art program, but I go to high school and talk to these kids, and they're like, yeah, I want to start my own business. I'm like, what?
Already.
Like, so I think that's amazing. I feel like there's a lot of information out there. And I think there's wisdom and there's information. And so I think like I always encourage like kind of like finding yourself and finding your place. And I don't know. I in my heart and in my prayer every day is like to inspire.
Yeah.
I think to what I was saying, the inspire versus aspire, I want to continue to be so brutally honest with my story that it not necessarily it doesn't inspire you to be you, it inspires you to really dig into yourself. And I think that I hope and that Kids of Immigrants and myself continue to do that. Like, there is, like, your niche, that unique that you are, that no one is, that's literally your power in a way, and believing in that. And I feel like, I feel like when we first started, there wasn't too many brands that kind of represented something outside of height, skateboard, hip hop, which I love everything. I grew up to everything. But this was just our own lane. And now I see a lot more brands representing something deeper than these like things that's been done in the past. And to the people who did it to the past, they created something that has allowed us to come in and say, we're going to do it this way, though.
Yeah. Man, I love it, man. And I appreciate you taking the time, coming to Portland. Sharing so much information, so much game. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Man, thank you.